good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're right on time, which is always fun. Good morning, Jess. If you just want to pop in the chat, if you can hear me all good. All right, just as some more people start to log on, my name's Alana and I'm one of the events and sponsorship coordinators for MPAQ, and today I will be moderating. So during this session, we'll be speaking with Taylor from Podium, specifically about today's communication landscape and how messaging can improve customer satisfaction and retention. We'll then take some time to do a Q&A at the end, and you can submit your questions in the chat. And if you haven't found the chat yet, it's on the right of the screen, so please make it interactive, pop any questions or comments you have along the way, and we'll get to them as we go. And you can also choose whether to make your response viewable by all attendees or just admin, which is myself, if you don't want your message, if you want it to be private, sorry. So today's webinar is presented in partnership with Podium, who are a corporate supporter of MPAQ. As I said, we're joined by Taylor, who is the Director of Marketing for Podium. Good morning, Taylor.
Good morning.
How are you going?
Doing good.
We were just talking. He's actually in quarantine for 2 weeks, so feeling for you there.
Yeah, I just got super jealous being down in Victoria of everyone up here in Queensland, and thought, I'd have to make the commitment and jump over here. So yeah, we're serving our time
Yeah.
in hotel quarantine. It's kind of funny talking to home and telling everyone what it's like and everything like that. But yeah, we're excited to get outside and enjoy sunny Brisbane.
Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. Well, before we get started, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and Podium and what you guys are all about?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so like you were saying, my name's Taylor Cutler. I head up marketing here for Podium here in Australia. We've been working with Australian clients since about 2016. Had quite a few Aussies who kind of jump over the pond and attend some trade shows over there, and signed up for our service, even though we weren't really servicing Australia, but we made an exception for them. And that happened enough times that we decided that we needed to do a better job of supporting those customers. So in late 2018, we came to Melbourne and opened up our first office. I wish we had chosen Brisbane for that location, but as an American, I didn't really know any different. And yeah, we've been here ever since. So if you're not aware of Podium, we're a communication platform for local businesses, essentially making it easy for businesses to communicate back and forth with their customers through all messaging channels, but most importantly, text messaging, which is obviously what we're going to be talking about today. A lot of us also know us because people use the platform to generate and to manage their online reputation, their Google reviews specifically, and it's actually how we got our start as a company. So yeah, excited to share the stuff that we get to hear about every day and share it with everyone over here. I mean, one thing that's been pretty awesome is being a Google funded company is we get a lot of awesome insight into how local businesses are found and some pretty cool stats and everything like that. And we'd like to share it with everyone we talk to. One thing I just wanted to mention is, today's webinar, I'm not here to talk about Podium or our product too much. I just want to keep this as educational as possible so that everyone, regardless if you're a Podium customer or not, or considering it, that you can really benefit from this and take, the things that I'm going to talk about away and be able to apply those to your business.
Cool. Sounds great. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. So let's get started. I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Fantastic. All right. Well, just like Alana was saying, so today's presentation isn't meant to be something where I'm talking about Podium's product, and it's also not meant to be something where I'm just talking to you and you're listening and that's that. Rather, it's supposed to be fairly interactive. Now, I don't answer questions until the Q&A section at the end of the presentation, but I don't want you to forget your questions. So if you have one pop into your head on a specific slide, please feel free to type those in at any time. You can send that privately if you'd like, if you're self-conscious or anything like that, or don't want other people seeing your question, that's completely fine. And I'll just read it out anonymously and answer those questions. And again, I don't want you to forget what those questions are. So just make sure you type those in as soon as they pop into your head. And then again, today's presentation also isn't meant to be something where you think, man, maybe if I had extra budget or if I had more staff members, that this is something that we could apply at our business, but rather they're actionable insights that we hope that you can apply to your business today. So here we go. Why plumbers should be texting in 2020. We're going to go over 5 tips to get you started. This is actually a quicker webinar, so it's some great content that'll get out really quickly, and make sure that we save you guys all some time today, because we don't want to be beating a dead horse here. So let's get straight into it. So I'm going to first talk about why businesses are adopting messaging at an unprecedented rate and why that's happening, why it's important. We're going to talk about how we can actually get started with text messaging and other messaging channels and what those messaging channels are for plumbers. And we'll talk about some tips for using text messaging to improve that customer experience and really make you the obvious choice when people when people are looking for a plumber to do business with. Now, the main reason that, to answer the question, right, of why plumbers should be texting in 2020, the main reason why is obviously because your customers want to text you. 89% of all customers want the ability to be able to message with the business as their form of communication. And out of all the different communication methods there are, the vast majority prefer text messaging. And out of all consumers, so not just out of that 89%, but of all consumers who are asked in the survey, 48% prefer to use SMS text messaging to be the method of communication with their business. Now, the reason this is important, we'll obviously go into why texting specifically has been so impactful and why people prefer that. But the thing that you need to take away from this slide is that the reason you should care is that your customers are there, right? So, for example, it doesn't matter. There are thousands of, hundreds of different ways of communicating, right? And there's a lot of different platforms out there. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And it doesn't matter really what they are. What matters is simply that you are where your customers are at, right? You want to be able to be the convenient business that is able to communicate on their terms, what they prefer to use. And the reason text messaging is that one is simply because it's the most common one, right? 97% of adults text every single week. This is something that maybe 10, 15 years ago, people said, oh yeah, there's no way we need to start texting with our customers. Like, we have so many older customers who don't have cell phones and are texting, and that's just not the case anymore. My 87-year-old grandmother has an iPhone and is messaging me on Instagram all the time. and not saying that everyone's grandparents are on Instagram and messaging, but they all have a flip phone probably at a minimum and know how to text. It's not a new channel anymore, and it's a very established one. And there's a lot of reasons why it's established and why it's so popular. And we'll go into that. But what you need to care about is simply the fact that your customers want to be texting you. The other reason that you should make sure that you're texting with your customers these days is that businesses that aren't accommodating to these consumer communication preferences will get left behind. In fact, 23 minutes is the average amount of time that people will wait for a response before moving on to a competitor. Now, think about your current customer experience, right? Let's say once they get to your website, right? You've done some good advertising, you've optimized for SEO, you have good reviews, and people find your business because of that, and they go through to your website, right? How hard is it for your customers to reach out to you once they get to that point? If they have to fill out a form, right? How long does it take you to get back to them after they make that inquiry or they try to book an appointment, right? So this stat's important to realize that they have a short attention span, and that 23 minutes is the average amount of time that they're going to wait for you to respond to them. And that's really hard to meet, especially as plumbers who are busy. They're on the tools, they're on the road, and they're constantly at work, right? And you might not have a ton of staff members that are going to make it easy for you to communicate back and forth with your customers who can't pick up the phone to answer all these inquiries. And so that's why text messaging is a great resource for that, simply because of the culture that's around it. It allows you a little bit more time, and it's a lot more easy to respond to those things where you can respond within that little time window. Now, what are those reasons that consumers want to be texting with your business? Well, there are several, right? So it's easier and less intrusive than other channels. So for example, If I'm in a meeting, yet I know, hey, the faucet's been leaking. My wife's at home with our new baby, and I need to get this handled. And so I've reached out to a few plumbers to ask them, how much it's going to cost to simply fix the leak, or what time they can get over here and how quickly they can. And if somebody's going to try to give me a phone call, I'm not going to be able to answer the phone, right? And if they email me, again, I'm not going to be reading my emails during a meeting. I mean, I might do that, but I probably shouldn't be. However, if they're able to text me, that is something that, during one of these Zoom meetings these days, since everyone's working from home all the time, that I can probably read and respond to even during a meeting, right? It's not that big of a deal. So that's one of the main reasons. Another reason is that it saves time. Think about all the time it takes to go into your email inbox or to pick up a phone call, when a lot of these things that you're trying to communicate about with are much easier if they're visual, right? If people are able to write things down, write down a number, things like that people can quickly see and just say, okay, yeah, that works, and do a quick response. It's a lot quicker to do that over text rather than picking up a phone and, exchanging pleasantries and saying, how's your day going? The weather's crazy here in Melbourne, things like that take up more time. And then last of all, obviously it can eliminate that phone tag in certain situations. Again, going back to that meeting scenario, if somebody calls me during a meeting, maybe it's going to be a few hours until I'm able to call them back, and maybe then the office isn't able to pick up the phone. And how many times are you going to be wasting time going back and forth and not getting something scheduled or fixed, when if you had simply sent out a text, you have zero phone tag, because people see that when they see it and they respond when they respond to it, and there is no going back and forth. There is no having to connect at the exact same time, because the message gets through. Now, if you do this right, it's a lot more effective, not just for your customers and making them happy, but for your business. So text messaging is a great channel to communicate because of these two stats, right? 99% is the open rate for text messages, and 90% of which are open within the first 3 minutes of receipt. You compare that to pretty much anything, right? So email is the easiest one to compare that to. Email has an average open rate of 20%. And then the click-through rate on that is a lot lower. As an email marketing manager, this is something I deal with every single day. And look at your own inboxes, right? How many of you have unread text messages? Probably none. But how many unread emails do you have? Well, my business email constantly has 20 to 30 unread emails that I'm constantly trying to fight the battle against. And I'm really trying my best to stay on top of that. My personal email, we're into the thousands. My boss back in the United States in the headquarters, he has 50,000 unread emails. So again, if you're trying to communicate with your customers through email, just think about how easy it is to get, drown out. And they might even be looking for your email, but it's just so hard to find. It could go into a spam box. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. So it's just a lot more efficient for your business simply because of those stats. Now, here are some results of some of our customers who have really adapted into texting with their customers. So 77% feel that that their customers feel more satisfied with texting their business. 66% felt that they're developing more positive customer relationships. And get this one, this is the one that I think is the most important. 5 hours is the average amount of time saved per week by simply utilizing text messaging rather than their traditional methods of communication, right? That one is massive, especially for a lot of these business owners, a lot of you plumbers who are on the tools constantly, who, in a lot of scenarios have seen, jobs pick up, especially if you're residential, because everyone's moving home and using the plumbing a lot more. And you don't have time to be messing around with your customers. So just think about your staff and how much more they're going to be able to get done if they're able to save 5 hours every single week. I mean, that can amount to being a huge amount of money. Now, another reason that text messaging is a lot better of a method of communication is simply because you can manage multiple conversations all at the same time, right? You don't have to be connected to every single person to be able to have that conversation, I think of Jetstar, right? Like in a chat window when you're communicating back and forth. Whereas text messaging, right? You could have tons of different conversations open with different customers and respond to them all at the same time. And that's really easy to do. And that really makes it easy to understand how that's going to save your staff member time, a lot of time, right? Especially your front office staff who are the ones communicating back and forth with your customers simply because of the fact that they're able to manage multiple conversations all at the same time. Okay, so hopefully by now, over the past 10, 12 minutes, I've convinced you that text messaging is the preferred communication method by your customers and why they like it, and also why your business should adapt to it and why you will like it as well, right? There's been tons of reasons, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but how can you actually get started? How can we actually make it so you're able to start texting back and forth with your customers and making a difference for your business? So let's go into that right now. So first thing we want to do is we actually want to set up lots of different communication methods and just make sure that we have an omni-channel presence, right? So that the multiple different places that your customers want to be communicating with you, that you are available on those channels, right? So a big one that is just a freebie is Google Business Messaging, right? So if you are familiar with your Google My Business listing, so that's if somebody Googles your business name, right? Or finds you by doing a search such as like plumbers near me, something like that, and they click on the businesses in that MPAQ. Now, when they click on your business, or if they literally Googled your business and they find your listing, they have a few different options, right? So if they're on their phone, they have 4 buttons. And same thing with a desktop, but it looks a little different. And you're used to seeing this all the time because I'm sure everyone uses this every day to get somewhere. So you either click directions so that you can start driving to that location through Google Maps. You can click on their website to go, learn more about that business. There's usually a save option where you can save that listing, and that one virtually doesn't ever get used, right? And now what we can do is, and the last button is you can call the business, right? There's a little phone button. Now what you can do is you can get rid of that useless save button because nobody's saving business listings on their Google account, and you can replace it with a messaging icon. And it used to be that you had to have a textable business number to enable this, and it's actually only been out in Australia for a little over a year now that you're able to do this at all. But now you can switch it out for business messaging, and all you have to do is log into your Google My Business listing and just turn it on, right? You can see if you've been reading those instructions while I've been talking, it's super easy. This is a freebie from Google, and now your customers don't even have to go through your website to figure out how to reach out to you. They can reach out to you straight through your Google listing, and just by taking out that one step in offering another channel, now your customer is able to communicate with you. Because while I'm talking about text messaging, right? Messaging in general is just the obvious choice. And, there are a percentage of people who, might prefer something other than texting, and you want to have that omni-channel presence. Now, the next thing we want to do is find a solution to get you a textable business phone number. You don't want staff members giving out their personal phone, or you as a business owner. Obviously you don't want to be giving out your personal mobile phone, or having to go to Optus and buying another cell phone simply for the business, right? You want a textable business line that you're able to communicate back and forth with your patients so that people aren't calling you personally when you might be on vacation or on holiday or anything like that. And so that also, if you have turnover and you have staff members leaving, you don't have that data leaving with them. So getting a textable business number is pretty crucial on being able to manage these conversations with your customers. There's a lot of different, solutions out there that do this. There's a lot of different capabilities. Obviously, Podium, if you're a customer, this is something that we give you as a customer to be able to communicate with your customers. We give you that textable business number, and if you wanted to learn more about Podium, obviously we can help you out with that. Now, once you have that textable business number, you need to publish that everywhere. You need to have it on your website so people know that they can be texting you right there through your website. You need to have it on your business listing, so on your Facebook page, your Google My Business listing. Sometimes there's a lot of industry specific or geographic specific websites. Even Master Plumbers, if you have a listing on there, might not be a bad place to have a textable number, so that if people find you through there, that they know they can reach out to you. And then another easy one is email signatures, right? Email definitely still has its place. It's a good place to send invoices, things like that. So just having that simply in your staff's email signature so people can easily find that. You want to spread the word where pretty much anywhere you already have some sort of communication or some sort of touch point with your customers. Now, another tip that'll make it really easy to start texting with your customers is to have a text message based web chat tool on your website. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about a web chat tool? Well, that is, if you go to your website and you're used to seeing, again, that pop up saying, hey, you have any questions, message us here, right? And that's the traditional kind of live chat tool that most people will have on their website. Again, think of Jetstar. That's a traditional live chat. Now, there's a lot of problems with live chat, and it's really hard to have a live chat if you are a local business for a lot of different reasons. Reason number one is going back to one of those stats that people have really short attention spans, right? If you're not able to respond to them almost immediately on a live chat, they're going to bounce and go to the next person who can answer their question, or they're maybe going to try to call you on the phone. They're not going to be using it like it's meant to be used. And that's mostly because local businesses don't have the ability to have somebody 24/7 managing that like a Jetstar would have that ability because they're a massive corporation, right? So that's problem number one if you have a live chat tool on your website. Problem number two is, okay, businesses will say, I can't manage this, but I can hire, some inexpensive third party out of the Philippines or someplace like that and be able to have somebody communicate with my customers there. But now you have a whole new problem where you have people who don't know anything about plumbing, who don't know anything about your business, communicating back and forth with your customers, right? So either scenario aren't ideal. So what we suggest is that you use a text message based web chat tool where so it'll still pop up the same and it still gives people that option to message with you, but it says, have a question, text us here. And they put in their name and their phone number and their message. And what will happen is it'll transfer that conversation to a text message format. And now you're able to respond on your terms with that customer. That conversation's saved. They can leave. They don't have to be stuck to the website. And you're able to communicate back and forth with that patient, with that customer as much as you need to. The other nice thing about that is it's a good way to generate leads, right? So you'll get 11 times more leads by using a text message based web chat solution than if you were to use, your traditional form. Simply because people who are willing to put in their personal mobile number have higher buying intent. So they're not tire kickers. They're not simply just, asking dumb questions. They fully intend to do business with you. And also now you have their number saved because they did that inquiry. So, if things are ever slow and you need staff to do something that's effective, this is a way for them to reach out to people who have made an inquiry and that you can possibly do business with. Now, these are all, great and easy things, but it can be a lot to manage. So what we do recommend is that you manage these different text conversations, right? And that you get that business textable number by having a customer interaction platform, right? Where you can get all these conversations off the personal devices of your staff members. You can consolidate all these different interactions, all these different messaging channels, such as, Facebook Messenger, we talked about Google Business Messaging, text messaging, Instagram even has a text messaging feature. I mean, Apple Business Chat is actually coming out soon as well. So there's a plethora of different messaging channels you could be possibly communicating with customers, and really being able to pull that into one single platform where you're able to message back and forth with them is going to make it a lot easier for your staff members to handle all these conversations. Now, if you do have turnover, if you have people leaving, they're not taking that information with them. And so let's say, for example, I reached out to a plumber just the other day back in Victoria for a leaky faucet. So with that leaky faucet, right, I reached out and they came and fixed it, but I've had issues since, right? And so if I have their textable business number that I've reached out to before, and I know that they can text back and forth with me, I'm not going to even bother going to their website next time. I can just text them and say, hey, it's leaking again. Can you get somebody over here? And the nice thing for you as a business is you're going to know who's communicating with you. It's not starting a whole new conversation because they're submitting a new form on your website, or they're on a live chat where they're not able to communicate, identify themselves. You have this number saved in your, customer interaction platform. You know who it is that you're talking to. You can see the conversations you have with them in the past. And now you have that relationship with that customer, regardless if it's another staff member communicating with them, because they can see, oh, wow, last time with this person, let's look like we fixed their faucet and they said it's leaking again. Okay, we know exactly what what's going on. We can send somebody out and they know that they can trust us because they have that channel of communication. If you think about it this way and you think about text messaging, it's a good way to create lasting relationships with your customers and really make it more personal, right? Make them feel like, you know who they are. picking up right where you left off, rather than, every single time that they have a problem or might reach out to you, it's like they're starting over the process all over again from beginning to end, right? For customers you already worked with before, this is a good way to maintain those relationships. You don't want to have them restart every single time that they have a problem. And again, right, there's a lot of different communication channels out there. Even though text messaging is the most popular one, doesn't mean there are other ones that aren't preferred. And so simply having all those messages in one simple inbox is going to make things a lot easier to communicate back and forth with your customers and keep those all in one place and make it easy to manage. Okay, so I've talked about why text messaging is important for you and for your customers, and I've given you some quick, easy tips on free things you can do to start texting with them. But now what I want to do is go through actual real-world use case scenarios that we've seen with businesses communicating with their customers through text messaging and give you some ideas of what ways you can use this. Because many of you on here, you might be a Podium customer, you might have another way to text with your customers, or you might already be doing it. So I just wanted to give you guys some good ideas on ways to communicate with those customers and what you can do with this. So tip number one is probably the most obvious one, and the one a lot of you are probably already doing. But you want to set appointments through text messages and send appointment reminders, right? So one massive part is nobody likes showing up to a job where, the house is locked, the owner's not there, you're not able to do the work, and you've just wasted that time driving out, who knows how far to get to that appointment, only to have wasted that time, especially if you have other jobs you could, would rather be at. So by being able to send out those appointment reminders, you're going to reduce the amount of those no-shows that are happening with people who might have simply just forgotten. And that will obviously make it so you can maximize your employees' time while they're out on the job with you and out working, rather than, again, paying them however much to have their time wasted as well. Here's a simple example of that, of somebody with an AC unit, just reminding them the night before or the day or the morning. I think the morning is probably the best time, especially if it's an afternoon repair job. And as you can see in this case scenario, that person completely forgot. And then they gave a little bit of more knowledge of, hey, the technician's name is going to be this. This would also be a really good place to maybe communicate some of your COVID strategies. A lot of people don't want to do business who aren't COVID-friendly businesses. And so this is a really good way to make sure that you're communicating what steps you're taking to ensure their safety and what they should know. Like, hey, while we're in the home, like everyone needs to be wearing a mask, whatever those procedures are. And this is a good way to communicate that to your customers right before they have their appointment so that they're aware, right? Or that, an adult needs to be present, whatever that might be. All right, tip number two is you can answer a lot of product and customer service questions and just improve your customer satisfaction. It's also a really good way to turn online searchers into actual customers. So again, going back to that messaging tool on your website, there's a lot of people who do just simply have questions and they're not able to find the information on your website, or they're not patient enough to try to go find that information on your website. So this is a good way to turn people who are just looking around into an actual paying customer who is going to be, having you come do a job or maybe something even larger. So this one, again, is an HVAC example of somebody asking about an air conditioning unit. And this is a good way for you to say, oh, yep, we have those in stock. We're able to install those in X amount of time and really get those people to end up making a purchase with your business on something that maybe you can make a little bit more money off of and have a higher ROI on what you're doing with your business. All right, tip number three, there's a lot of upsell opportunities. So for example, there's a lot of scenarios where you might be working on a job, and maybe you can offer them something additional, and an additional cost to prevent that same problem from happening again, right? And maybe you notice, hey, this isn't, this, you can honestly just use a whole new unit, or whatever it might be that you can actually make more revenue off of for your business. And text messaging is a great way to do that. I think this happens a lot where you might be working on a job and you need their permission to do something, but there's a lot of problems when you come into those scenarios, especially if the key decision maker in the home, and again, I'm talking residential, but this applies to commercial as well, isn't there to make that decision, right? Or isn't there to tell you yes or no. So this is a good way, you can say, hey, we were looking at the job. It looks like, you really actually need a whole new, air conditioning unit. You need a whole new, we might want to replumb the entire home. Things like that can maybe make you a lot more money. And you would definitely need somebody's permission to do something like that. Maybe it's something little like, hey, you just need a new air filter. We sell this for $40. Do you want that? Great. Okay, we'll go ahead and install that now. And now you have documentation of that. I don't know if you've ever run into this before. I know I have, where somebody says, yes, let's go ahead and do X thing. It's going to cost more money. And then it comes time to pay and they say, oh, I never said that. And now you get into a dispute. But now if you're able to do that through text messaging, you have documentation of that and you're not going to run into that problem. And you can really back up your staff or reprimand them if, in fact, the text messages say otherwise of what they were saying. All right, another good thing that we've seen a business is having a lot of success with is asking for feedback in the form of NPS surveys, right? So if you're a little bit of a larger operation, this might be a little bit more relevant, or if you're just a really good small operation, this is also relevant to you. So traditionally, to find out your net promoter score, right? So the question of, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to your family members or friends? Traditionally, those types of questions get buried into a long form survey. And the problem with long form surveys is, one, it's difficult to get people to do them. You need to incentivize them in some way or form, to actually go through and spend the time when they could be doing a plethora of other things. Another problem with long form surveys is they're fatiguing. So I might start a survey with a business and tell them my opinions of everything. But after a long, survey, I'm into question 50. I don't care anymore about this survey. I'm just trying to get through it. And I might not be answering questions truthfully at all, or I might just not be paying attention as much as I could. And so you're not going to get accurate data. So replacing those long form surveys with a short text message based NPS survey where you're simply asking 2 questions, you're going to get a lot more actionable data and a lot more accurate, right? So the customers who are using text messaging to find out their NPS scores, our customers have seen a 26% increase in those net promoter scores. So this is kind of what it would look like. So, hey, thanks for using us on a scale of 0 to 10. How likely are you to recommend us? They give you that answer, and then you can automate, hey, thanks for that feedback. What could we have done a little bit better? And then they can give you that right answer. Like, they're a little late. It took a little bit longer. It was a little bit more expensive. Right? There's a lot of things that you can take and then pull out of that data to find out where you can improve your business. So, and again, 2 quick questions like that is a lot easier for somebody to do, and you're not going to have to incentivize them compared to a long form survey. The other nice thing is it's over text. And so since it's over text, people are going to see that and, feel more impulsed to actually respond to those simply because they don't want to have an unread message in their inbox. All right, tip number 5, you can answer questions and solve problems quickly. Not all questions and problems require a phone call. Texting is just a lot easier and more visual than a phone call where you can simply ask, something really quick. So this one's just an example of, how late are you open, or, what's the latest time that you can, perform a job. That might be really common, especially with people who are working professionals who might not be able to be home all day, might have to do something a little bit more after hours. So there's a lot of different scenarios you could probably think of where this happens. And this is a really good way to just answer that and get it out of the way, because it shouldn't take that much time out of your day to answer the phone or respond to them in another way. And this is something that's actually really common, especially with COVID. People are constantly confused with what's allowed, what's not. I feel like here in Queensland, it's a little bit better, but man, back in Victoria, it is really difficult knowing what you can and cannot do. And so being able to communicate, especially during pandemic measures, makes things a lot easier and a lot more efficient. All right, and then quick little bonus tip, but you can use text messaging to invite your customers to leave a review about your business. Like I said, that's how we got our start. And a lot of people use that part of our product to generate reviews. What we've seen is that people who use SMS text messaging to solicit reviews from their customers see 15 times more reviews come in compared to that of a normal, email-based platform. So it's just a lot better of a way to generate reviews on your business to get found easier on Google. If you haven't viewed one of our webinars before that we've done with MPAQ, here's some quick stats on why reviews are important. So 3.3 is the lowest star rating a consumer would consider engaging with the business. We tell all of our businesses you want to be at least above a 4.0 because it's like 67% of consumers won't consider doing business with a business that's below a 4.0 star rating. 82% of consumers say the content of a review has convinced them to make a purchase, and 93% say that reviews have had an impact on their purchase decisions before. So, really self-explanatory, reviews are really important. This is a really good, easy way to generate those reviews. This is kind of what it would look like, right? To how you could send out a text and get them to leave you a review, on Google or Facebook or anywhere you'd like. Okay, and then one quick, little bonus thing I wanted to talk about is this isn't available yet in Australia, but if you're in marketing or if you are wanting to really get ahead of the curve, Google has released these things called local service ads. So Google LSAs, they're available in the United States, and a lot of the home services sector there, especially plumbing, has seen a lot of success using those. So keep your eye out, because once that is available here in Australia, this is going to be a really good way for you to generate more revenue for your business, and just it's another option that you'll have. This was supposed to come out a while ago. I'm not sure why it hasn't come out yet, but yeah, just keep your eye out for this, because this is just a quick bonus tip. I know it's not quite in line with the texting conversation that we've been talking about in this, in this presentation, but it's something that I feel like everyone should be well aware of, that this is going to come out soon, and I can promise you that they they make a big difference, and there's a whole a lot of different things that you can do with this once they are available. So with that being said, if you haven't asked any questions, I'd love to answer them now. Again, you can feel free to type those in at any time. I think we have had some questions that we can start off and to kick this off. But yeah, we'll open it up to Q&A now.
Thanks, Taylor. While we wait, if any do come through, I thought of some while you were talking. So I was just wondering, what do you think would be a reasonable cost to be investing in sending out SMSs?
Yeah, so it depends. So this is the hard thing, is that, there's a lot of ways you can send out SMS text messages, and it just depends on how much you're going to use it, right? So for example, a tool where you're able to communicate through different, messaging channels and be across the board on all of them, it'd be better to be paying, maybe a monthly subscription fee and not be paying per text message, right? Whereas if you're only going to be using it simply just to send out, appointment reminders and that's it, and a lot of the customer management systems that you might already be using probably offer that. That's great. The problem I see with those, though, is that they're not enabled to be able to respond to text messages. So if you're using one of those and you send out a reminder the morning of saying, hey, you have an appointment today at 12 o'clock, whatever. If your customer has any problem, if they need to reschedule, they're not going to be able to respond to those. So that's the problem with those. And on those types of texts, you are paying a per text fee. The actual cost, that's a really good question. I think people can pay as much as like 6 to 10 cents per text message. So it really depends on how many jobs you're doing. If you're really small time and not doing that many jobs, then I'm sure that's fine. Paying up to 10 cents per text, that's definitely worth it. But if you're sending out a lot, that can really be a huge additional cost. And in that point, it would be better to go with a solution where you're more just paying a monthly subscription cost to have a whole platform.
Okay, cool. And is it possible, do you know if you can set up a mobile number so it automatically comes up with the company name if the customer hasn't saved the number on the phone? Yeah,
so you can. So this is the problem, is that, so if you do that, you can do that, and you can have that saved. So for example, if they get a text message from you, instead of saying out the phone number, right, like you're saying, it'll say the business's name. The problem is that the only way you can do that is they can't be enabled to receive texts. So I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but you can't. Let's see here. Are you there? Oh, sorry. I thought I lost you for a second there. Yeah. So if you do that, now you can't have customers responding to you or texting you back. So that, if they need to reschedule or if you want to communicate back and forth with them, you can't do that. So you'd have to have them save the number. That's a good question.
Yeah. And you spoke about, I guess, sending out reminders for jobs. Is that like an automated thing that you can set up?
Yep. So that is something that you can automate based off of just like triggers, right? So you just, have in your system, okay, Betty has an appointment at 3 p.m. Let's just set it up so after, 6 hours prior that they get the, appointment reminder. So those are things that you can automate based off of a trigger like that.
Okay. Cool. And then I just thought of one more as well. So you're talking about the web-based tools. So what kind of costs do you think a business would be looking at to implement a web-based text messaging service?
Yeah, so that's probably one of the more expensive things. So it kind of depends. So, it's usually a monthly subscription fee. So like a base platform is usually, $300 to $400 a month. And then to have a text-based tool is usually an add-on. If you were to only do a text-based tool, but like you don't have the communication platform, I think you can get that for around $200 a month. Again, it's always going to be a subscription fee. It's kind of the way just, softwares usually work these days. It's not in the past where you'd buy it and then you just own it for a few years until you need to update it again or something. But yeah, so it's usually a few $100s a month.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, there's no other questions coming through, so we might wrap up. So thank you to our partner Podium and you, Taylor, for being here today and for your presentation. A lot of the tips that have been provided aren't reliant on a platform like Podium, but if you'd like to take a look at what they can do for you, we'll add some info to the thank you email that we'll send out later today. So I hope everyone's found it really useful and gotten some guidance. Thanks again, Taylor. I hope you enjoy the rest of your quarantine period as much as you can.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Alana.
Okay, have a good day, everyone. Oh, wait. He's still there.
Oh, yep.
Brenton left it to the last moment. He's asked, if you have an automated test system for appointment reminders, is it simple for tradesmen or employees to send customer texts if they're running late?
Yeah. So I'll respond to that as, talking about our platform, Brenton, if you don't mind, for Podium. So for sending out things like that, especially if you have tradesmen out on the road, right? It's not going to be easy for them to, log around a desktop or even a laptop with them in the vehicle, right? So what our software has is you can have everyone actually download the app on their mobile device. And so even though they'll be communicating with the customers through the mobile app, rather than them giving out, again, their personal number, it's still coming out from the business's textable phone number. And so, yeah, you can have everyone, just all your staff members, download the app, and then you can transfer those conversations to individuals. So for example, if you had somebody make an appointment with somebody in the front office and they've been, managing that through a desktop, or a, just a tab open on an internet browser on a desktop right there in the front office, and they set up the appointment, they can then transfer that conversation to the tradesman who's going to be doing that work with that customer. And so even if that tradesman's out on the road, they can get on the app and then say, hey, I'm running late. I'll be here in 15 minutes. And then they can respond back and forth with that customer. And again, it's all going to be one single communication thread with that customer, even if they're out on the road. So that makes it a lot easier and a lot more simple for them to be able to kind of do things like that.
Okay, great. Thank you for your question, Brenton. And as I mentioned, I don't know if I did, but this session has been recorded, so we'll send out a replay. So if you want to look back at any of the slides, you'll be able to do so. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Taylor. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.